Welcome to Binging the Force with the Rocky Mountain Fan Force. I am Dale. I've got a great panel of Star Wars fans with me tonight to talk about The Mandalorian, Chapter 2, The Child. James, what's happening with the Rocky Mountain Fan Force this week?
Okay, thanks for joining us tonight. So Rocky Mountain Fan Force, we do monthly get-togethers, sometimes in person and sometimes online. This month we'll be doing an online event where we'll get together and talk about recent Star Wars news, things going on in the Star Wars universe, and just generally talk about Star Wars. So that's February 18th from 2 to 5. You can find that information in the events tab on our Facebook page, Rocky Mountain Fan Force. And also St. Patrick's Day Parade. We'll be doing that with the 501st Garrison, Mercs, Rebel Legion, and a couple other groups. March 11th, approximately 9:30 in the morning is when we're going to meet. But some of those details as far as where we're going to meet and the exact time are being haven't been determined yet. So keep an eye out on the events tab for our Facebook location, and that will be updated once we get a little bit closer. Again, thanks for joining us tonight.
Awesome. All right. So last week we left off from the first episode of Mando with the big reveal of Baby Yoda at the end. At this point, we don't know him as the child. Maybe he's referred to as the asset. But he's not Grogu. He's just Baby Yoda. So Dan, when you first saw Baby Yoda, what did you think of this creature? Where did you think he came from? Did you think it was the offspring of Yoda and Yaddle, or what was your Baby Yoda theory when the series first came out?
I thought maybe he actually was related to. I mean, who knows? It might still be related to Yoda somehow, but I just thought he was the cutest thing in the world, like probably everybody else. I thought it was a great concept. I thought there's some great development of his character pretty quickly in this episode. So I'm looking forward to watching this one again.
Very cool. Now, Shane, I know you were pumped when the Mando series came out and it was billed as this bounty hunter. He looked like Boba Fett. Were you ready for the child to take the world by storm? Oh, you're on mute. You're on mute, bud.
Sorry, not necessarily. But once you saw that little guy, he's so cute. You knew Disney was going to market the heck out of it, and it was going to be this big, push for toys and stuffed animals. And I couldn't wait to get my own, to be perfectly honest. But now I think I have like 8 or 10 Baby Yoda items myself. But the character in general, I think, is fascinating. Seeing an offspring of that Yoda creature and seeing it as a young little baby, because we've, like you said, we've only seen Yoda and Yaddle as those two species, right? And there's so many questions that are around that. Just where does that species come from? Are those really the only 3 that there are out there? Or how rare are they? It's because they live forever. It feels like 900 years. You'd think you'd see them all over the place, but there's only 3 that we know of, and you see all these other creatures everywhere. Really makes you sort of curious. And I really am happy that Filoni and Favreau brought this creature to us. I think it's really cool.
Yeah. Michael, were you surprised when it seemed like that first episode was all new characters for them to throw something that looked familiar, but we actually had no idea what the heck it was?
I mean, I thought it was great. It's all new Star Wars. So I would say I went in with very little kind of preconceived notions, and at that point with no knowledge of who the baby is. I mean, thankfully I don't think anyone on this call are people who thought it was actual Yoda, because there was a lot of confusion about that, and a lot of where the calling it Baby Yoda came from was the GP general public kind of not getting that there's no way it can be Yoda, because in the timeline Yoda's been dead for 7-8 years at that point.
Good point.
Well, there's interesting fact is there's a lot of rumors out there that and you even see in the trailers for season 3 the lightsabers cutting through the door during Order 66, and there's people saying that it could be Anakin Skywalker and maybe some sort of face-off between Grogu and Anakin, and that Hayden Christensen has been back. I'm really excited for season 3 to see how they show more of what Grogu's backstory is and how he escaped the Jedi Temple. I think it's really fascinating to see that part of Star Wars that we've only sort of talked about as fandom groups, but to actually see it in real live action, I think is really exciting.
Yeah. James, did you think Baby Yoda was going to be a continuing part of the story? Like we'd see so much screen time for him? Or did you think it was just, hey, Mando's going to pick up this random person every week and drop him off somewhere?
Yeah, I initially thought that that it was going to be, he would be in just a couple episodes or something. And I just think it's really cool how their relationship develops and kind of the friendship and the care that the Mandalorian, it really takes seriously kind of taking care of Grogu and getting him to where he needs to be. I think this episode is especially touching the way Grogu, when he sees that he's, basically injured, and some of the other things that he does through the episode. So this episode's going to be really interesting to watch again.
Very cool. All right. You guys ready to get into it?
I was just going to mention that there's very little dialogue, so there's not a lot in the subtitles for this week because there's really, I mean, until the very end, there's almost no dialogue. It is like all action.
Interesting.
So we'll go ahead and lead into The Mandalorian Chapter 2, The Child.
I love how this episode starts off just right after we essentially saw Grogu right away. It's just boom, next scene essentially. I think it's great.
Yeah, still hanging out on Tatooine.
It's not Tatooine.
Oh, it's not.
No,
I keep thinking that. I thought that last week, and
I can't remember.
Was it just everywhere?
Arvala 7 is
Arvala 7,
the planet. Yeah. So, but now, real quick, these little creatures, I don't remember what they're called, but I don't know. It's like a seahorse with legs almost. But I do like what you mentioned there, how it just picks up right away, and because they don't keep that consistent throughout the whole series, but at least for this, yeah, he's at the moment he's marooned on this planet. We don't see that yet, but he'll find out soon enough.
Well, what's cool about this, especially the first 2 episodes, I think, is if you watch them back to back, it's almost like watching a movie, right? It's like, especially how it just picks up here, and then the detail in his gauntlet, just how you see that for the first time, is great.
I love that the baby stays in the crash and just kind of keeps floating around. And I think we see later in the episode that he actually has a remote control where he's remote controlling it.
Yeah,
this bounty hunter, or these bounty hunters that are trying to get Grogu from him, isn't that Borsk from like Empire Strikes Back, right?
Bosk.
He was one of the
the Bosk character. I don't know if those are the Bosk aliens.
Yeah, they're
I don't know if he's one of them, but it's definitely the same race.
Yeah,
the same alien race. Yeah.
And did they give him like the puffy vest, so it kind of matches other Trandoshans?
I didn't notice.
I counted on you to know the name. That's what they're called, Trandoshans.
Yep.
Man,
I love that rifle just vaporizes people instead of just knocking them down.
It's
The
powerful.
Child.
I have a Nerf blaster. That's one of those. So.
Nice.
It vaporizes people.
No, I just shoot my children with it.
Whenever stray cats come on the property, they see the end of it.
It's so cute. I rewatched it with my daughter this weekend, and he's so cute. Came out about every 3 minutes or so.
Yeah, I believe it.
Yeah, it's gorgeous production design, and they just I love how they created Grogu, and it just seems so real and so lifelike. And
this is the first time we see him out of the crash, actually walking towards him. We never see feet. I don't think we've ever seen legs, but we actually see him out of the crash, and it's okay. We're guessing at that point. Okay, what's he trying to do? What's he doing with his hand there?
See, I love. Go ahead.
I was going to say, does anyone have any theories on that tracking fob? Like, is there a way of not being tracked? I mean, how the heck does that keep finding them? You know.
I don't know. Yeah, it's almost like as you get closer, just ding ding. It doesn't really seem to do much. But I want to make one comment here on his armor. You notice how he's repairing it compared to when he has his full Beskar set. You can tell that that's not the pure Beskar that he's having, and how much of an upgrade that he gets with that. I think is awesome. How they can upgrade the character's armor throughout the series.
Yeah, I think in the movies, like throughout the trilogies, characters get different costumes from one film to the next, but it's not really a part of the story so much.
Yeah. Well, it's almost like a video game upgrade.
Right.
Because in the beginning, he's just taking care of mostly foot soldiers and grunts, and he's just kind of powering up for the big guys by the end.
Oh, this scene is so great. How he's just picking off Jawas here, coming up. I just love it. The first time I ever saw it, watching Grogu's expression here is just amazingly funny.
Yeah, this is a weapon I don't think we've ever seen before. It's kind of interesting. It takes out the biological part of whatever it is, but at least putting the clothes.
Yeah, all we saw of it in the holiday special animated short was he uses it to slap the creature, but he doesn't actually ever fire it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Am I the only one who's been around the RMFF long enough to remember that at one point we had planned to purchase an RV?
Yes, I remember that. Those were some of my first meetings I ever went to.
Yeah,
I thought you guys were crazy.
Well, for those who didn't know, so we had planned to purchase an RV and modify it to look like the Jawa sandcrawler here, and use it to actually take the whole group to conventions, because we used to go to a lot of all the celebrations and out of town conventions, and we wanted to show up because this was the same group who had actually built an X-wing out of a pull trailer for the St. Patrick's Day parade. So that was going to be the next ambitious project was actually taking an RV and building a sandcrawler around it to drive that from city to city.
Well, I think
never happened.
The goal was to do it for Celebration 3.
Oh, okay.
The goal to drive it to Indiana, and like you said, it just never happened. But I remember Tim was trying to build his own X-wing that flew as well.
Yeah,
Tim was a great guy. Rest in peace.
Yeah, Tim Tracy. I forgot to mention at the beginning that so on the YouTube channel, I'm alternating the weekly review episodes here with a couple kind of retrospectives, like RMFF videos of prior events that I've had on my YouTube channel, and I'm kind of moving them over. And the first one on there is a sparring session from the summer of 2002, and it really features one of our more illustrious members, Tim Tracy, and it's him kind of sparring with everybody. He's the one who spearheaded a lot of that kind of building, the building of the X-wing on as a float for parades, and the intention of trying to build the sandcrawler never happened, and he passed away, unfortunately.
There he goes, throws the Jawa down.
Yeah.
Jawas are trouble.
Grunts, a lot of whales.
Other than the cattle prods, their only weapons are trash.
Yeah.
Well, it could be they could have some weapons that they stole from his ship.
Yeah.
I guess they got the little shotgun too.
Well, see, there they go. They all got their little stun guns.
Yeah, and I love that they all three to me just drop straight down.
Yeah, and they do their little Utini yell in unison there.
What's so great about this episode is it feels so Star Wars, like Episode 4 type of Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
Just old school. I love it. It's so fun.
When he's hanging on the side there and it gets close to the canyon wall, that reminds me of Last Crusade.
Yes.
I think I love that.
And he's fighting on the tank, yeah.
And then when he's climbing up the side too, with the rope and his cape kind of behind, reminds me of like 66 Batman when they go up the side of a building.
I love the montage that's gonna be coming up when they put the Razor Crest back together, because you look at this thing and it is just like thrashed. I mean, how the heck can they put that thing together?
he doesn't have a very good security system for Razor Crest. It doesn't have the club or anything.
The club.
But
Well, they didn't fly it away, so it may have a club.
At least they didn't send it to a chop shop. I'm surprised they did. They probably have their own chop shop. So
yeah.
They are the chop shop.
They are the Brute Squad.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, you could tell he's about ready to cry under that helmet.
He ripped off all of his weapons.
Yeah, I can just see a tear falling down.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's not going anywhere.
Yeah, we don't know about the rules about the helmet removal and that. So at this point, it's kind of like, what's this guy feeling right now?
yeah.
You know, he's trying to show that emotion, like we talked about last time, without any facial expression.
Yeah.
Which is
But
quite
they made
impressive.
that work really well just by either the physical act or if it's actually Pedro Pascal, right?
Yeah.
Kind of their mannerisms and just the way they set up the scenes. He's obviously
this
pretty
is such an
exasperated
iconic
at this point.
right there in the sunset. You know, it feels very Western-esque too.
Yeah, so he goes back to the only place he has a friend, at least.
His only friend.
Yep. Your only friend on the whole planet.
Nick Nolte. When Nick Nolte's your only friend, you know you're in trouble.
Dinner time.
Yeah,
This is where we find out he's part French.
yeah.
Well, and definitely a carnivore.
Yes, carnivore for sure.
Likes his frog.
This is what was causing all the fuss. Yeah.
Yeah,
So this is the only section where we actually have dialogue because he has someone to talk to, since the Jawas they're not very conversant.
yeah. Baby Yoda doesn't make for great two-way conversation, I guess.
You know, you'd think Mando would just pick him up once and just squeeze him because he's so cute, like a cat or something.
Do we think we'll ever see his feet?
You'd think.
I thought you saw his foot in one scene later on in a different episode. I might be wrong.
I have spoken.
Yeah. The
Spit that out. Yeah, not going to happen.
that's like a good portion of his body size. Like, I don't think I've ever eaten anything that's like half the length of my
He's
torso.
got a big stomach. Really big stomach.
Yeah.
He's like a snake, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't have to eat for 6 weeks now.
So their plan is now they're going to try to trade, or at least he's got the Ugnaught has a better relationship with the Jawas than he does.
Well, that's for sure. He just vaporized a half a dozen of them.
Right.
I love how they're just looking at their loot here, like, hey, man, we got lots of good stuff.
Yeah, they are not his biggest fan. Greetings.
Yeah, it's a good thing he's got Quill to translate and help negotiate, I guess, because otherwise it would just be a shootout with the Jawas.
Well, I think he's giving Quill to
They did disintegrate a few of them. Yeah, I love all the little portals where some of them just pop out of.
Well, what's neat about this is like the only time you ever see a Sandcrawler on screen is in A New Hope, right? And you just see a little bit when you see R2 and C-3PO. Now you get to see so much more, especially when they're driving. The cockpit is so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like
definitely
the-
get a lot
nice-
more. Get a lot more of
decently-
Jawa culture.
Yeah, a lot more interaction with the Jawas. You get to learn about how they're their culture a little bit instead of just seeing them passing.
Yeah, it's very similar to how you learn about the Tuskens in Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah, and all this unexplored territory here. Things that from our childhood we always fantasized, and wrote our own headcanon on.
Exactly. Some of the stuff that really fascinated me, those ideas when I was a kid, that really made me grow to love Star Wars.
It's like they'll trade, and I'm not going to trade for my stuff. It's my stuff.
Fair point.
They're like, no, it's ours now. You sound like a Wookiee.
Yeah, that was got jokes. Until
This is-
Flamethrower comes
yeah.
into. 'Cause, 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 'cause,
Yeah, they want his armor. That's not going to happen.
They got the red eyes. So in A New Hope, or in the OT, when we see Jawas, they have yellow eyes.
Yep.
And we learned through the Hasbro action figure that these are called off-world Jawa, but it doesn't really say what on-world is. I guess.
Oh, interesting.
The red
I
eye.
think on-world would be Tatooine, and so anyone they're
Yeah. Are they native to Tatooine? I don't know if we ever
No,
find
no.
out.
yeah.
It'd be interesting.
Interesting. The
Yeah.
egg. The egg.
I remember first time seeing this, I was like, "What the heck are they doing?"
Yeah, it's a shame. That is a shame on not being able to hear the audio because it's so cute hearing them go the egg. Well, they're saying like utini or something like that, or there's some word that they're using for the egg, and they just
Well,
say
I
it
love
again and
how he
again.
bumped his head up on the thing, and they all look at him and laugh.
That's a cool shot.
Yeah.
Even though this is shot on the volume, it's like, wow, there's a sense of scale there,
Yeah.
that they look small compared to the Sandcrawler.
I feel
What did
like
you guys think? What did you guys think they wanted the egg for when you first saw this?
I thought it was like some sort of animal or something that they need for something.
I thought
Like they're
maybe
gonna
it was
hatch
like
it or
a
something?
stone
Yeah,
or
yeah.
something like that, or a gem, or
I mean,
actually, it really wasn't an egg. It was
the main thing I thought is the chant sounded like the chant in Galaxy Quest when,
Yeah, it does.
when it's like the rock monster thing. It's like the rock, the rock, the rock.
Maybe I wonder if they took a few cues from that movie.
Yeah, there's definitely some tonal similarities. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it seemed like, what was it supposed to be more like a trophy or like some kind of tradition thing? It didn't. It was built up to be more than just a giant Cadbury egg, I guess.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it definitely is built up to be more than just an afternoon snack,
Yeah. I think they're mostly just setting him up to basically like, you're a tough guy, we'll deal with this.
Right. Probably intended to get him killed so they wouldn't have to trade for his stuff. They assumed he'd never come back. If he did, then at least they've got a nice snack.
Yeah.
Clearly,
Maybe.
it's hard to get this egg, and they haven't been able to do it themselves. So, or maybe they did it once.
Maybe there's some kind of hallucinogenic or some kind of drug in there, and that's what makes their eyes red. They should be yellow eyes as well, but once they get a hold of the egg,
Once you get the
maybe
egg,
they're just getting high off of it.
Yeah, they seem pretty excited about getting it. We'll see in a couple minutes here.
like catnip for Jawas.
This was a pretty good reveal of scale. Just this eyeball popping out.
Yeah.
Right.
This is great right here.
In the version here of the rock monster.
And right there, you can tell his armor is not up to snuff, man.
No.
Is there a Mando drinking game where you drink every time he gets laid out on his back?
There should be.
We'd be at 2 for tonight.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, now he's got some problems.
Yeah,
Rifle
this
jam.
almost looks like the creature from episode 2 that's in the arena.
Like, yeah, it's the Reek,
Kinda,
but apparently there's a real life creature. I don't know what it's called or where the fossils.
Oh yeah, that was around during like mammoth times and whatnot.
Yeah, that's how we found out he actually has the remote for the crush there.
Right. Yeah. Baby Yoda isn't piloting it. It is Mando controlling it somehow.
Oh man, that would hurt.
Yeah, it just gets destroyed.
Using the whole arsenal, using the big gun wasn't going to work. Using the fire, using the rope, using everything he can.
Yeah, this was before his jetpack.
Improvise, adapt, overcome. Mandalorian.
It's like, whoa, dude.
That's a little comedy bit right there. Just airborne.
Yeah,
Mando's on his back. Take a drink.
Now we're getting Mando, baby, Mando, baby, Mando, baby. There's a connection going on here. Are we building up to something?
Oh man, just last stand here with the knife.
Yeah, just fighting to the bitter end. for ship parts.
Yeah.
And that hand,
That little hand.
the promise that they built up earlier. Yeah, I was interested if they'd actually like followed through and having him heal, because we don't see him do that until like, I don't think it's even this season, right? I think it's second season. I can't remember.
Yeah,
I remember it happened the exact same week as the last Star Wars movie.
Yeah, because they wanted to explain it beforehand that it's not just Rey that could do it.
Right.
Yeah,
that Jedis do have healing, but we had never seen it happen until this show and that movie in the same week.
Which would have been very helpful, considering episode 3, right? I mean, the whole reason Anakin turned to the dark side.
I don't know how the heck you could take that thing down with a knife, though.
Well, if you know the right spot. Of course, he did burn the heck out of it first, too.
Yeah.
His tongue, man.
And maybe it just completely died of fright by being lifted by Baby Yoda.
Yeah, that's true.
Hey, it's
You gotta have a
believable,
heart attack.
You can die of sadness in the Star Wars.
Right, if you can die of a broken heart, you can die of freaked out by levitation. And that took him out, so yeah. We now know he's got command of the Force,
Yep, he's got Force.
And so quickly, it was like the first episode, I was surprised that they introduced him so quickly into the series, and then they already have him doing strong Force stuff by the middle of the second episode.
The egg is looks like something that, I don't know, like bad animal fur.
It's like wet carpet.
Yeah.
Wet shag carpet.
Yeah, exactly, with mud on it.
How do you even find that? I mean, it looks just like everything that's around it. And he's stalling.
Yeah, I think we'll definitely have to get some information soon on the Mando series as far as, okay, if he's 50 years old, at what span in that 50 years was he learning about the Force and how to do things like that? And how long has he been in captivity for?
Yeah.
Well, by this point, if he's 50 years old at this point, he would have only been like 4 or 5 during Revenge of the Sith.
Not that long, because it hasn't been 50 years.
Yeah, it's probably closer to 30.
Anakin died in like his early 40s.
Yeah.
So it's only been like 20 years since the Purge.
Okay, so maybe it's 10, 15. But still,
it's
relatively
maybe
young.
25 years since the Purge. So the Order 66 would have been when he was around 25.
Okay.
Which again, for their lifespan, I mean, 50 years out of 900, that's still pretty young there.
And he's essentially an infant still in this state, right? So what was he like back then? Just even smaller.
Yeah, that's so nasty.
Cadbury egg.
Monsters. Just like a bowl of queso.
What killed this off-world Jawas? Salmonella.
High cholesterol.
They could be a little more efficient with that because they're just getting it everywhere.
Man, look at that, man. Imagine putting that Lego set together.
Well, we're going to see a building montage of it.
Yeah, I feel that's not all the parts they ransacked, but
yeah,
maybe they had to make a couple trips to get it all.
Well, I like how once they get it back together, it's like exactly the same as it was before.
Aren't there always parts left over?
Yeah.
I really want some A-Team music, like when BA's welding something onto a car.
Yeah.
Bum, 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 bum. Bum, 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 bum. Yeah, the building montage every single episode, exactly 45 minutes into the hour on A-Team. Every single episode they built something.
They got to build their
Turn an escort into a tank.
And it's like overnight they're done.
Yep.
Yes, we finished. We had enough coffee and we did it. And Mando Picks the Summer at the same time.
Yeah, having a I don't have a boat, but if you did, it'd always have to be like ready for seafaring and for space. Like I wouldn't take my chances on like putting together my own spaceship.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess
well,
it's
better be good. It's gonna
code that you gotta know how to.
space.
put a ship together.
It's a building montage.
Oh man, to go from what they had to this is like night and day.
Yeah. I got Emily a Lego set for her birthday, and she was building it this weekend. And when she was done, there were pieces left over, and I had to actually ask her, "Are there always pieces left over?" And she said, "Yes." I haven't built a Lego set in 40 years, but I did not know there are always extra pieces.
Yes.
Yeah, not many. I have a big '89 Batmobile. It's like this long, and there was like 5 extra pieces or something. It was not many.
You are my guest, and I'm therefore in your service.
I'm kind of sad that we leave this character so quickly.
Yeah.
He's a really neat character.
Needed more Nick Nolte.
Yeah.
I mean, I like the mention there that Ugnaughts basically have always been slaves. I mean, as we saw them previously, and so he managed to get out of his servitude, and now he just lives his life of quiet solitude there out in the desert and doesn't want to be bothered by anybody. A very noble guy there.
I do like that we get reintroduced back to this character later on in the series.
Yeah.
I've spoken.
And the tagline. There you go.
And Mando's armor is looking really bad.
Nolte out.
You get all that mud off of himself somehow, though. I don't know if the Jawas have like a shower inside the sandcrawler or what.
Right.
You'd imagine that helmet probably smells pretty bad.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, the whole thing, the whole outfit, and particularly the helmet. Yeah.
Yeah.
You would hope it's got like some breathing equipment in there, because otherwise, he's smelling his breath all the time.
Well, I know from fact wearing a Boba Fett helmet at cons, it can get sort of claustrophobic.
I know for a fact from wearing masks during COVID for 2 years.
Oh, good. Quill did stick around to see if the ship actually took off. Like, I'm just going to assume you could finish it up and we'll see your way out.
Actually made it to space.
I think eating would be very challenging with that.
Well, yeah, and he has to do it obviously when no one else is watching.
Yeah.
Or just use feeding tubes.
Right.
Takes a lot of his nutrition through a straw. Cutest baby ever.
Well, it makes you wonder, like, when he's by himself on the ship. I mean, obviously now Grogu's there, but do you think he always chills with his helmet on no matter what? Or do you think he's like, because, later on in this.
Take it off in private or whatever? Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, as long as another living being is not around, I think he's fine for taking it off. It just can't let someone see him with it.
Yeah.
They can take a shower once in a while.
Clean it out, get a sanitary wipe.
Yeah. They don't really address that in Star Wars, how people bathe and stuff. It just seems like everybody would be really nasty and smell bad.
Yeah, that's very true. Unless you live on Naboo, I suppose.
Yeah.
Just throwing in Jonathan, who is too sick to be here today. He posted in I guess he's watching us live on Facebook. The Mandalorian is so cute indeed. Dan dropped off. I'll get him back in.
There we go. Sorry about that.
No problem. So that's episode 2, The Child, and this time we are watching the gorgeous artwork after the fact.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Really cool.
So this episode was nominated for an Emmy for Outstanding Single Camera Picture Editing, and it won Emmys for Outstanding Special Visual Effects and Outstanding Sound Mixing. So, yeah, I could definitely see the winning the special effects for this with that Mudhorn.
Oh yeah.
Fight.
So something we haven't mentioned. I mean, him and the baby and the crash. I mean, has anyone here not? Or I mean, is anyone here not familiar with Lone Wolf and Cub?
I am not.
Really? Okay, so no one got that. Like the entire Mandalorian and the baby thing is a complete ripoff of a Japanese manga from the 70s called Lone Wolf and Cub. That's about a samurai traveling through feudal Japan, with a baby and having Western type adventures, or feudal Japan, which is basically Western type adventures, exactly as this show. I mean, it's a huge Japanese manga from the 70s. It's been adapted into multiple movies in Japan, multiple TV series in Japan. There was an American version. They took the Japanese comic and it was reprinted in America. Frank Miller and a lot of other artists kind of worked on the American version of the comic. There's supposed to have been Japanese versions of the movies that have been worked on over the decades, but have never come to fruition. So there's never been an American version of Lone Wolf and Cub. The Mandalorian is basically an American version of Lone Wolf.
That's really cool.
Look up Lone Wolf and Cub, because it's the exact same scenario. It's the exact same visual of the warrior, the lone warrior, walking through, the wilderness, with a baby in tow, rescuing towns and having, Western/feudal Japan adventures. I mean,
is it good enough that it's actually worth watching today, or is it too dated?
Well, I mean, the primary source material was a comic, was a manga. And
so there's no movie version of it?
No, there is. There's been multiple Japanese films of it. I've never actually watched it myself. I'm familiar with it, but I've never actually sat down. I'm not a fan of it or anything. I've never sat down and watched any of the movies or the TV shows of Lone Wolf and Cub. But it's huge in Japan. I mean, it's a thing a warrior and a baby next to him. To a Japanese person, culturally, they know exactly what that is. That's a Lone Wolf and Cub reference. They're just, they just know that automatically. Oh. I was just curious because we didn't mention it last week, and this week was the one to mention it because it's the first time we've seen the two of them just kind of wandering through the desert together.
Yeah, that might be worth searching out and a little history on.
Yeah, there's a ton of books. I mean, you could read a book every month, the rest of the year probably. There's a lot of material there because it's been going for a long time.
Yeah, it started in 1970.
Okay.
So there's 50 years worth of Lone Wolf and Cub material from Japan.
Wow.
But yeah, I think it was in the 80s that Frank Miller, David Mazzucchelli, a lot of the same people who worked on Daredevil and his Batman and stuff, did an American kind of remake comic of Lone Wolf and Cub. Did
you have that one?
No. No. Like I said, I'm not particularly a fan of it. I'm just familiar with it. And as soon as I saw The Mandalorian, especially that second episode, I'm like, oh, it's Lone Wolf and Cub.
I may have to look that up. I like Frank Miller's stories, so I'll see if I can find it online somewhere.
I think the books are all black and white.
Yeah, I believe the original 70s books are all black and white. Yeah.
So, doing episode 3 next week?
Yes.
Yep.
Mandalorian
skipping around.
3, The Sin.
Yeah, I was looking through the episode descriptions to try to remember. It's okay, are there any throwaway episodes, ones that are not necessarily worth redoing? And there really aren't.
No, there isn't.
Every episode, especially that first season, was so significant. I mean, and I mean, it's episodic. So, I mean, a lot of people complained about the fact that a bunch of the episodes kind of coming up are standalone kind of, the Western guy shows up in a town and saves the town kind of thing. Yeah. But they're all so good.
Yeah, the one I don't care for so much is the one where they go to that planet with that little community and they're being ransacked by raiders and stuff like that. I don't.
That's the question. That's the classic lone stranger rolls into town and saves the town. I mean, it's such a classic Western story.
Yeah, well, it's very similar to the first season 2, episode 1, where he shows up and helps him.
Yep.
Get that armor.
Cool. Well, we are at right around 40 minutes. Cool. So any last thoughts, anyone?
That was a great episode. I really enjoyed it. Had a little bit of comedy, a little bit of building of the character of Grogu, and kind of obviously that he's a Force user and stuff. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, huge revelation there. Because I mean, just because it looked like Yoda doesn't mean that was necessarily going to be the case, you know?
Right. And for all the questions you have about this very major character, really the only thing we learned was, he's got some Force ability, but it wears him out after when he does use it.
Yeah. Well, and now it's only the third member of that race that we've seen, and all three have been, Force wielders. So
I really like the teasing of old characters or lesser known characters, and still it makes you want to know more, even getting that little extended glimpse into their lives. You still want to know more even after that.
Yeah.
Like, what is his record for frogs eaten in a single trip?
Oh no,
Or
but
even the Jawas or the Ugna, you want to see more of them.
oh yeah. It's so much, so much background. But I can't wait till we discuss season 2 when Grogu's eating the eggs. That's a good one too.
Yes.
and Grogu's not the best little baby. Yeah.
You thought
He's
this was
definitely not a vegan. He definitely does not have a lot of respect for life. Yeah.
there's
He's
more
sophisticated enough to hold a cup of tea and drink that.
Yeah. That's so cute when he does that. Yeah.
Okay, so I guess next week we're gonna go on Thursday because we're gonna skip Valentine's Day for for those of us live who have someone to spend Valentine's Day with. So
there you go.
Probably a smart move.
Yep. So next Thursday, episode 3, The Sin. You said
The Sin.
Great. Okay, well I'm gonna go ahead and take us out. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us.
Yep, and thanks, Jonathan, for joining us on Facebook Live, even if you're too sick to join us in person. So hopefully you'll feel better next week.
Hope you feel better, Jonathan.